This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dubs.
Oh, okay. I was sitting, I'm like, well, he's not.
I wanted
to
to put the pause in there to build up anticipation and also to wave.
Yeah,
I can't do both at the same time.
Wave into the YouTubes, hi YouTubes, and then build the suspense for those on Blog Talk Radio. But you are either listening or watching the Onside Kick here on Most Valuable Podcast, your kind of one-stop shop for all the NFL news, all the NFL stories. And we got a jam-packed show, but before we get into it, Mark, you are back after a week off. Sean kept your chair nice and warm, but I got to ask, how you doing this week? It's been a while since I've seen you.
I'm doing good, and it actually is pretty warm in this chair right now. I'm enjoying life. Football is fun. It's back, even if the Bears are losing everything. But I'm still holding out hope that the Browns can win a couple games and the Bears can not win any games, and we get that number one overall pick. That's my hope.
You really want that number one?
I mean, why not? I don't think the Bears. I don't remember a time that the Bears have had it.
Was Cade McNown your last number one pick?
I think so.
Because he was the number one pick.
Since then, it's just kind of been a lot of not good years, but not bad enough years, and that's not worth anything to you.
Well, we're going to get into some of those teams later in the podcast, talking about some coaching hot seats. We talked about Mike McCoy last week, Sean and I did, but we're going to dive into some hot seats later. We're also going to look at Colin Kaepernick and then a kind of quarterback controversy that we have for the Denver Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, not the Denver Cowboys.
They can play wherever they want. They're America's team after all.
They're America's team. Yep. Dak Prescott, Tony Romo. Who would you rather start? What should the Cowboys do? But we are going to start in the city by the bay, the city that, I'm sorry if you're in San Francisco right now, but I kind of hate you because my Cubs are playing your San Francisco Giants. But we're not going to be talking about the Giants today. We're talking about the 49ers because Mark, I almost called you Sean, but Mark, the 49ers have named a new starter. Yo Gabba Gabba is no longer starting for the 49ers. It is now Colin Kaepernick. What did you think when you heard the news?
Well, you know what? They first kind of floated out some ideas, some rumors that your favorite quarterback, Christian Ponder
baby,
might actually skip over Colin Kaepernick. No, I think this isn't surprising. And we knew that Gabbert was not very good. They had that great win in week 1 against the Rams. But you know what? Last year they had a great win against your Vikings. And we all know what happened last year. It was terrible. But Gabbert's not very good. He's not terrible, but he's just not very good. We knew that eventually a switch was going to happen. Chip Kelly had to do something because he can't keep putting out this crappy product and hope to keep his job. And he's got this quarterback on the roster. This is why it didn't surprise me, guys. He's got this quarterback on the roster that is the best fit for what he wants to do and what he's known for doing that Chip Kelly's ever had in the NFL. He has not had one of these quarterbacks since he left Oregon when he came from college to the NFL. So he's not had one of these guys. He finally has one. It should, on paper at least, be a match made in heaven. Because the thing about Colin Kaepernick, yeah, he had a disappointing year a little while back, but he went to a Super Bowl. He went to an NFC Championship game and was very, very close to winning that NFC Championship game. He's done a lot of good stuff. Then he had that one bad year, really stanked it up, and then just kind of had contentious relationship with the GM and with the ownership of the San Francisco 49ers when he wanted to get traded but had too big of a contract. Now it seems like they've peacefully made up, and now he gets his chance.
Yeah, and when I heard this news, the first thing I thought of was I wasn't quite sure. It was one of those things where it's like, does it change anything? And I know that in our group text, you kind of pointed out the question, I don't know if it was jokingly, kind of serious, of like, oh, is this going to matter? And my first thought was, no, Chip Kelly's bad, so no, it's not going to matter. And then you said what you said now. Oh, well, he's never had this quarterback, and Dave said
it's good potential.
He agreed. I mean, it's one of those things where it's not the exact same, but I think back to Philadelphia when they got Sam Bradford, when they got DeMarco Murray, when everyone was like, oh, look at these players they got, man. The Eagles are going to be something. Tony Fusco
But to be
there on
fair,
cliches.
be fair, Sam Bradford was not a Chip Kelly kind of quarterback.
And that's why I said it's not an exact, like it's not exactly the same, but there's a part of me that says this is too good to be true. Like we thought that DeMarco Murray and Sam Bradford were going to do stuff for the Eagles when Chip Kelly was there, and then nothing materialized.
It tanked, really.
I know the big difference, and it's a huge difference, is that Colin Kaepernick seems to have fit the Chip Kelly mold better than a DeMarco Murray or a Sam Bradford. But the big question, I'm going to throw it out there, we've talked about it before in the past, but when it comes to football, is Colin Kaepernick ready to put it all on the field and leave all of the off the field things that he's been, I'm not going to say dealing with because he kind of brought it up himself. Is he ready to take that on and also do X's and O's on the field?
I would say, if anything, it's extra motivation to do well because he knows that
he has to do well.
He knows as soon as he does not perform, he's got a whole mob of people willing to call him out. So he knows he has to go out there and he has to do well. The problem really is that I'm still not convinced that Chip Kelly can be an NFL coach. You know, he had his moment to shine in Philadelphia, which was at first still Andy Reid's team, essentially, all the pieces left. Then once he started making it Chip Kelly's team, it didn't work out anymore. But he doesn't have personnel control anymore. So maybe this will work out in San Francisco. I'm not quite convinced, not until I see it. So that's the thing. It comes down to this. Blaine Gabbert, when the team is led by him, they're one of the worst team in passing yards. This team is one of the worst. There's only one team that's worse than them. So you look at their games. Yeah, they got a bunch of losses, but they're not that far away from teams. It's not one-score game territory, but they're not that far away from a lot of these teams. So you asked your question, do I think that Colin Kaepernick, with his athletic ability, with his deep arm, do I think that he's going to do a little bit more to make these games at least closer, but hopefully to get us in a position where we can win that game? Do I think he can do that instead of Blaine Gabbert? And I think the answer has to be probably, because Blaine Gabbert, like we said, not that great. And hell, you're a bad team. You're 5-1. 4-1. So you got to just kind of give it a shot.
1-4.
1-4. Sorry, let's not get excited, 49ers fans.
You're making them a good team.
I wanted to crown their asses.
I'm like something's not right here, Mark. 1-4.
Yeah, they go from 5-1 to 4-1 to 1-4. But you know, they just had to make a change of some kind. Something had to give because Chip Kelly remembers very much what it's like to get fired. He's thinking about Tom Sula, and he didn't last very long. They got rid of a coach who was doing great in Harbaugh. So I don't think there's any reason for Chip Kelly to feel confident in his job. So he's got to make some kind of change. He's got to try and do something to get this team alive and playing well.
To me, this 49er team, I look at their schedule, and
it's not going to be easy.
Well, no matter who's quarterbacking, I don't see many wins. I mean, just looking to week 11, I see 1, maybe 2 wins. I mean, I feel like this team can maybe play well at home against the Saints and get a win, but at Buffalo, at Arizona, not a chance. Especially,
you don't like them against the Bucs?
Like Arizona, I'm going to get to the Bucs in a second. Like Arizona beat you without Carson Palmer in your stadium on Thursday Night Football. There's no way you're going to beat them if they get Carson Palmer back. There's no way you're beating Tom Brady. And this Bills team, as of right now, is on a hot streak.
Great defense.
And I mean, Kaepernick coming back, it's his first game. Are there going to be some mistakes? Is that Buffalo defense going to be able to make some plays? The Saints, I think they can win. The Bucs are the iffy one because when the Bucs are good, like if we see the Buck team, I don't want to say this past week because this was a terrible game against the Panthers, but if we see the Buck team from week 1 that actually played well against the Falcons, Jameis Winston doesn't turn over the football, actually looks like a competent quarterback, then I think the Bucs can beat the 49ers. Right now I would lean towards the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, until week 11, I'll give it 1 win for sure over the Saints, maybe 2 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then besides that, you're only winning maybe 3 games. I mean, Miami and Chicago right now, you can win. The Jets, if they ever figure out what to do, you could probably win that one. Falcons, Rams, and Seahawks, I think they split with the Rams. I don't think they beat the Seahawks. And then the Falcons, right now I would give it to the Falcons because of how good they played. But yet again, the Falcons were 6-0 last year and then tailed off.
Yeah, Falcons can only win games when they're the underdog, so it's not a good situation when they're playing a team like the 49ers.
But it's in Atlanta.
Yeah, so I think that, like you're saying, Bills, that's going to be really tough. And then I look at these next games, and it's like, obviously the Cardinals are a tough team. When it comes to the Saints with Drew Brees, I think Drew Brees can beat any of these quarterbacks because the 49ers defense is not good. Bucks, I think, is a toss-up. The Dolphins and the Bears, sure, that's a toss-up. But you know what? With Colin Kaepernick and with Blaine Gabbert, with Christian Ponder.
The Bears don't know how to beat the 49ers. I mean, Gabba could beat them.
He probably could.
He did last year.
So I just think that, but by the time we get to the Dolphins, by the time we get to the Bears, I don't know if Colin Kaepernick's still going to be out there.
By then, it could be Christian Ponder.
Because, Gabbert only got 5 games. And he didn't do terrible, but he didn't do well.
So week 11.
If Colin Kaepernick starts to not do that great, he might be out of there in 3, 4, 5 games too. I don't know.
And that 5-game period would mean Christian Ponder starting week 12.
Yeah.
That means Kaepernick's out after that New England game, which I'm sorry, Tom Brady's going to win. He's Tom fucking Brady. And what's he going to do, Mark?
He's going to grab the NFL by the pussy. Because he's a big Trump fan. He's going to grab it by the pussy.
By the way, guys, I had to set Mark up for that before we started the podcast.
Because you wouldn't let me talk about Tom Brady
Mark's
today.
like, man, I wish we were talking about Tom Brady because I got this funny line. I had to serve up that meatball for you.
Thank you.
I had to serve it up for you. But, yeah, with Colin Kaepernick, I don't think this is going to change anything. I think that the 49ers are still going to be a bad team. I think they're still going to be on track for a top 10 pick. And really, to me, if I'm Chip Kelly, unless it's one of those things where I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, otherwise I'd be sitting there going, hey, let's get a top pick so that I can secure a guy that would fit my system very, very well in a Miami's Brad Kaaya.
Yeah.
Or Deshaun Watson.
I just want to point out that if Kaepernick gets to the point where he plays the Dolphins and then he loses his job and they're going to play the Bears next, then without a doubt Christian Ponder is going to beat the Bears. Because the Bears, every time the 49ers start a new quarterback against the Bears, the Bears get just their asses kicked. 49ers beat them. Don't forget that Jeff Driscoll is on this team too. He did get drafted in the 6th round. So
don't forget the Driscoll.
There's potential there. Maybe Chip's already got his guy. He feels like, no, I'm good to go. But at this point, I just don't think the 49ers has any guarantees with this team that Kaepernick lasts unless he does well. Which, John Madden and all. But, it's pretty obvious that they're willing to make whatever changes they need because I think Chip Kelly still feels the heat. And we're not talking about the coaches on the hot seat yet, but he's one of them. He's going to be there. So I just think he's going to be willing to do whatever it takes. The question of, does Kaepernick make this team better? On paper, yeah. Kaepernick makes this team better. He went to a Super Bowl. He went to an NFC Championship game. He was good for 2 years, just had that one slump of a year, and then everything fell apart. And he fits the system. On paper, it works. I just don't know if I can see it because he's had so much time off.
I'm going to throw this out at you. Is there a chance at the end of the year, because we're in Chicago, the big thing right now, whenever you talk about the Bears and Chicago sports talk, besides John Fox making fun of the media saying that all we do is fucking eat hot dogs in the press box, the one thing that is now being talked about is the eventual move on from Jay Cutler. I'll ask you this. Is there a chance at the end of the year that Kaepernick doesn't work out, Ponder doesn't work out, maybe even a Driscoll doesn't work out, and Chip Kelly and the Niners go, hey, maybe let's take an offer. The Bears are offering us Jay Cutler. Let's make an offer to get Jay.
Jay Cutler, I think, could be a good fit for a Chip Kelly system.
He's a mobile guy.
Yeah.
He's not like mobile like Mariota.
No, exactly.
But he can roll out.
He can roll out. He can do the bootleg. He's a big guy, not super big, but he's a guy who will take some hits.
Yeah.
He's going to probably get hurt at some point, but he can take a lot of hits in the meantime. I mean, that's all he's done his whole career. So it's potential. It could possibly work out.
The only thing is, what would they give up? Probably picks.
I guess so. And I mean, the Chicago Bears certainly need quite a few. They got an entire team to still rebuild. But I don't know. When the San Francisco 49ers, when they're going to be a top 5 pick this coming year, because they're going to be a top 5 pick, I don't think they pass on one of these opportunities. I hate to say it, but this might be one of those years, Ricky, where we just have a shit ton of quarterbacks that don't need to go in the first round, going in the first round. And I think, hell, we could see 3 of them in the top 5 potentially, just because Bears are going to be there, Browns are going to be there, 49ers are going to be there.
Well,
Dolphins will be there, but they don't really need a quarterback.
The top 3, I'm thinking, well, 4, fuck it. We could have 4. The 4 right now that I'm thinking of, Deshaun Watson, Brad Kayak from Miami. Then you've got Chad Kelly, Ole Miss.
Of course.
And then don't forget J.T. Barrett in Ohio State.
So there's just a lot out there, a lot of these teams. And, of course, we're not saying that 4 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 5.
Yeah.
Don't get us wrong here.
They could, though.
We're just saying that there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks that are going to be drafting really early. A lot of teams thinking about the future. A lot of teams that are going to have quarterbacks that have moved on.
I can't wait to
It's
get
almost
the draft
time for yet another way too early mock draft, I feel like. I feel like down below, guys. Let us know.
I thought about it today. I thought about coming out with my first mock draft, my first official 1.0 mock draft. So let me know down below if you guys want that. Before we move on, is there anything that we missed with Colin Kaepernick and the Niners?
No, I think it all comes down to this. Here's my summary. It makes perfect sense on paper, but Philadelphia made perfect sense a lot of times too, and it didn't work out. Do we blame Chip Kelly? Do we think that because he has the personnel decisions taken away from him, that maybe that's the way to solve this problem? I don't know. Whatever happens with Kaepernick, it's not going to change anything with the San Francisco 49ers. They're just not that great of a team.
And the one thing I'm going to say to kind of close this off is the one thing you also got to look at is this wide receiver core is very different than the one Kaepernick had.
He doesn't have Crabtree
2 years ago. Doesn't have Crabtree. His top receivers, Torrey Smith, who hasn't been exactly the best wide receiver for the 49ers. Then he's got Curley, he's got Patton, he's got Streeter. I'm gonna say it, not the best wide receiver core. This is where you guys come in. Let us know down below in the comment section what you guys think. How's Kaepernick gonna do? Is this gonna fix the 49ers? Is it gonna save their season? Let us know down below.